I'm Tony Clement. I'm a strategic advisor with HPE Point Next Services, and I'm here to talk about finding the right mix to allow your organization to adopt hybrid cloud. Why should you do it? And what are the top three questions that customers ask about hybrid cloud adoption today? Um, so what's the state of hybrid cloud adoption? The 2019 Right Scale State of the Cloud report shows us that about 70% of organizations that were surveyed are pursuing a hybrid cloud strategy. And the reasons that they're doing that are on the right, faster deployments, on-demand capacity, desire to lower data center costs, cost savings on in-house IT, outsourcing of IT operations, adding security, and moving from a CapEx to an OpEx model. So there's lots of good reasons to migrate to or move towards hybrid cloud. Most organizations are doing it, but based on my own experience and what's happening in the market and in the field today, this isn't really an easy thing. This is actually quite difficult. Some of the common questions are, the top three questions are, how do I know which workloads I can move to the cloud? How do I modernize my data center to get cloud-like agility for workloads remaining on premises? And how do we address skills and organization for success in hybrid cloud? All of these are very, very difficult questions to answer and probably even more difficult to execute on. Typically, you'll have your Chief Information Security Officer asking and needing to understand and to identify potential risks. Business units want to leverage new technologies to be more competitive in the marketplace. And security wants everything to be secure by design. What we're finding is that in answering these questions and migrating your workloads from their current on-premises environments into hybrid cloud, there has to be a lot of work. And a lot of the work is around understanding what those workloads are and ensuring that your approach is data-driven. We start by finding the right mix. So what's the right mix of on-premises, hybrid cloud, or private cloud, and public cloud? So the hybrid cloud, when you combine those three, you kind of get the hybrid cloud. The approach that we take to finding the right mix is it has to be data-driven. So we have to discover the information that's about your workloads. Not only the information about the workloads, but what are they running on? What kit are they running on? What infrastructure? How are servers actually talking to each other? What forms a workload affinity group? So a group of servers and a group of services that actually deliver value out to the business. So you just can't take a technology view. You just can't say, well, here are the Windows 2008 servers. We're just going to migrate all those. Because typically organizations don't have their infrastructure implemented by OS version. They have their infrastructure is implemented based on geography, based on non-functional requirements, based on regulatory and compliance requirements, and based on workload requirements. Typically, the infrastructure requirements come last just to satisfy all of those previous requirements. So starting with infrastructure moves tends not to give you the result that you're looking for. You really need to start by understanding the workloads and where those workloads run and how they interact and interoperate. Once we understand that, then you can actually assess those workloads. So we collect information using any number of tools, and then we assess that information. And the assessment is enhanced by enriching the data that we've collected automatically. And we'll enrich that data through questionnaires and workshops and understanding what your application portfolio management strategy is, as well as your application and business services strategies, and looking at how the business wants to use and how your organization wants to use technology to be able to increase and extend your value proposition in the marketplace. that's understanding those roadmaps, those workload or service or application roadmaps, understanding where your business wants to go starts to give us the information that we need to put together application migration roadmaps, application migration waves and plans. We'll always look at those applications from a technical as well as from a business perspective and kind of determine their suitability for migration. And we'll then classify them in your classic rehost, replatform, refactor, retain, replace, or retire categories. And we'll also look at and understand what's the best target for those applications. So what's the best place for them? Where's the best place for them to be migrated to? Once you have that roadmap for application migration and stand up an application migration factory that has the ability to scale up and down, then you've given yourself the capability to be able to migrate applications based on business requirements as well as based on technology requirements. Many of the customers that we're working with are looking to optimize or to reduce or to completely eliminate their data center footprint. And they're migrating their applications to the public cloud as well as to private cloud and into co-location facilities. So they can kind of get out of the IT infrastructure business. So the question comes up, how do I modernize my data center to get cloud-like agility for workloads remaining on premises? Well, firstly, the reason that you want to have a common way to operate your application workloads is because that gives you the ability to reduce your operational costs through automation. Having a common or compatible orchestration and management plane across all of your infrastructure, whether that infrastructure is on-premises infrastructure, private cloud, or public cloud infrastructure, having that common management and orchestration plane allows you as a customer, allows our customers to minimize their ongoing investment in infrastructure. And that's where there's real value in as quickly as possible, minimizing your on-premises workloads and moving those to private and public cloud. That'll give your organization the agility that it's looking for in terms of managing workloads, because it's going to abstract that actual application and business service away from the constraints of physical kit. So abstracting away from that physical kit, away from the physical world into the logical world is a key objective in terms of business agility. And this is where HPE and Microsoft are working really well together in terms of working with our customers to help to define their application as well as their infrastructure strategies. Move what makes sense to the cloud and modernize the rest. So firstly, learning and alignment. Through our Right Mix advisory services, we can work with your organization to help you to understand which workloads are best suited for the cloud versus which workloads need to remain on premises for any number of reasons. We go through that assessment looking at the economics of migrating workloads to security, as well as the transformational opportunities that you have, and I would say transformational requirements around DevOps and CloudOps. Then we actually go through the migration process. The best way to migrate a large number of applications is to establish a capability, a migration factory capability that has the ability to be able to scale up and scale down as migration requirements scale up and scale down. You're not going to migrate everything at once. Many organizations look to migrate into the cloud or into the private cloud and then modernize later. Some don't. Some organizations look to move their lift and shifts as quickly as they can, start to try to modernize those, and then take a longer time to modernize legacy applications, and particularly bespoke applications that need to be re-engineered to become cloud native. that application modernization through containerization and uh, um, web services and other types of microservice architectures takes time. It takes time to re-engineer and rewrite applications and to re-architect those applications. In doing that, that actually opens up opportunities for innovation and to change the functionality of those applications to become more contemporary. What HPE believes is that you should be consuming all of your IT infrastructure as a service. So IT as a service, everything as a service. I advocate, as a strategic advisor, I advocate that the customers that I'm working with are get out of the IT infrastructure business. There's very little value for organizations to remain, for customer organizations to remain in the IT infrastructure business, and there should be roadmaps to get out of IT infrastructure. HPE is in a much better position to manage IT infrastructure than most, if not all, of our customers. So being able to deploy private cloud and focusing on the Azure Stack is one of our key capabilities that we've created within HPE and Microsoft in our partnership. And we have standard methods for delivering Azure Stack as a private cloud. So how can you get started with Microsoft's Azure Stack? What's the best way to build a private cloud? And how can you move targeted workloads to Microsoft Azure? What's the best way to secure our Microsoft private cloud? And can we integrate Azure Stack with Azure? And the answer is to those questions is that Azure Stack is a great way to create a continuous and extensible and elastic private cloud infrastructure that can burst from your on-premises private cloud in Azure Stack through to Azure Public Cloud. And that gives you the elasticity that you need in terms of workload management. Where HPE and Microsoft can help you with this is through our implementations and through our own R&D and investment. We have a significant amount of IP. And so you can see from this list that we've got reference architectures, lots of code that can be reused, DevOps capability, monitoring, logging, automated naming and tagging, fully automated RBAC, and modular and extensible designs that are currently in use. So we have large Azure Stack deployments, some of the largest in the world in some of our customers. And we're delivering those benefits by managing that entire environment for them and allowing our customers to free up their resources and their intellectual capital to focus on real business problems whilst we manage the infrastructure and we ensure the reliability of that infrastructure. So a good way to get into private cloud through the Azure Stack is by leveraging HPE Pointnext services and Microsoft. HPE also offers a GreenLake as a financial wrapper, which abstracts the finances away from your actual consumption, aligning your private cloud with your public cloud consumption, and allowing you to be able to monitor and manage the cost and operation of those workloads, whether they're on private cloud or public cloud, through our GreenLake model. But the most kind of the most difficult aspect of this is how do you address skills for success in the cloud? Being able to transform your organization to become cloud native, to become a modern digital organization. The cultural transformation, the ways of working, I'm finding is the most difficult challenge. Not only do you have the challenges of the technology change, so transforming the infrastructure from on-premises to private and public cloud, you have the challenge of ways of working. How do you actually get things done in your organization? What are your operational procedures? If your operational procedures are serial procedures and they take time, so for example, change management. If you have a change management board that, a change release board or a change advisory board that meets once a week, Well, the most you're going to release is once a week because changes aren't approved. So even if you have complete end-to-end automation and you can deploy um, every minute of the day, you can only release once a week. So the change management process needs to be automated to align to releasing on demand. So that's critical. That transformation of your operating model, of your ways of working is critical. It's also interesting because many organizations don't see and don't understand that this doesn't necessarily mean a change in organizational design. So your organizational design, your hierarchical design doesn't need to change. But the way that you deliver does need to change, and organizations need to adopt agile methods in order to do that. So the hardest part of moving to the cloud, like I said, isn't technology, it's about the people. And so what's your plan for organizational change, training, communications, and day two operations? Uh, this is a step-by-step approach that HPE and Microsoft have collaborated together to develop, and kind of starts with Cloud 101. So, and that's a leadership thing as well as going right across the organization. The organization needs to understand, your organization needs to understand the benefits of the cloud and why move to the cloud. There actually need to be real tangible benefits, measurable benefits in terms of cloud migration. And the business as a whole, the enterprise needs to be committed to this new strategy, to a strategy of moving away from IT infrastructure and into hybrid cloud. So that second bit is the economic model. So why is the economic model better? The key reason is that you avoid large capital expense and overspending on infrastructure, because it's infrastructure on demand, right? So once you get to a hybrid cloud environment, your infrastructure, the kit that you still have on premises is still available as code. So infrastructure as code, and it's managed through those management and orchestration plans that I mentioned earlier. And those management and orchestration plans actually give you the governance and controls to be able to monitor and manage and control your costs at a real-time granular level, which is something most organizations don't have. Many organizations, and traditionally, IT has built capability through projects, and projects go out and acquire infrastructure and tend to acquire infrastructure at its highest level of capacity and demand. And that creates excess, that creates more capacity than is used or required. And what we find in many of our customers is that when you start to go through the actual utilization of infrastructure, CPU utilization is pretty low. Network utilization, disk utilization tends to be higher, but CPU utilization tends to be lower and tends to be trapped in silos, and you can't share it across the organization. So a hybrid cloud approach gives you that flexibility where you can actually move workloads to and expand those workloads basically on demand. So the application cloud readiness, how ready are your applications? And again, going through the right mix and discovering the applications and understanding their the technical infrastructure as well as the application architectures allows us to understand how cloud ready those applications are and whether they need to be re-engineered or can be more simply migrated or more easily migrated. And that the next box, the agile platforms and tools, that is key to getting stuff done. You can have all the other stuff ready. So those first four boxes are about planning, about readiness, about understanding how to do things, etc. That fifth box, that's actually doing it. You need to have agile teams that understand platforms and common tool sets, and those agile teams need to work in harmony. And if you're an organization that's enterprise, if you're a large organization and you have scale, you need to be able to scale agile. So you have to move from a project-based delivery to a product-based delivery, or product and services-based delivery. And that actually impacts roles and responsibilities because everyone works within the agile teams and within the scrum of scrums, on agile release trains, and in larger scale agile. So roles and responsibilities within agile teams and within the organization actually change. So getting stuff done, and as a strategic advisor, that's kind of the focus that I have, is to ensure that once HPEs and Microsoft customers have these strategies in place, we can provide the services and the expertise to improve and accelerate execution.